You stole my car. Oh. Oh, very good. And is that for your canoe? Oh, roof tent. Yeah. Come. It's really time to start, so you guys can come in. Come on in. Good to see you. Everybody had a nice trip? Yeah, good. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Oh, yes, thank you. Such a reflection that's spread to the capital.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. Not COVID, yeah. I saw the newspapers around. What's it called? Mycoplasma. Yes. Everybody get your flu shots. And if you can afford it, your COVID shots, I recommend. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. Okay. 1 second. Hello, Brett. Okay. Perfect. Come on in. Oh, sorry, I left the vacuum. Sorry. I was relatively before you came. Here, 1 second. Hi. I left out the vacuum. That's not very mindful. This, by the way, is our DHARMA vacuum. It sucks up the dust of samsara in. Still there? Okay.
Jindo, what does it do with the dust of samsara? Because you froze exactly at the right moment.
Figure out which button to push there later.
Oh boy, it's going to be one of those days. Jindo, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, so you didn't get my joke about the vacuum cleaner that sucks the dust of samsara into the void and has no attachments, Johnson. You didn't get my joke. Okay. Good to see you all. Speaking of having to do the vacuuming, our theme today is Zen at home, Zen in the monastery, not one, not two. Which is better? Who's going to win? Which is number one? And we say not one, not two. That'll be our theme a little later. And that's exactly what all of you, as far as I see, are doing now. You're all practicing Zen at home. But what is your true home? Hey? I got another Zen joke there. Your true home. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. Onkai, are you the Ino today? No? Who's the Ino?
It's going to be me.
That's B. Okay. Well, B, let's get going. If you've been here before, you know what to do. And if it's your first time, just follow along. Good to see you, Bernal. I hope you're sitting, or maybe you're still reclining.
You can hear me well, right?
Yep.
Okay. The heart of the perfection of great wisdom, Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, awakened one of compassion, in Prajnaparamita, the deep practice of perfect wisdom, perceive the emptiness of all five conditions, and was free of suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form, form is precisely emptiness, emptiness precisely form, sensations, perceptions, formations, and consciousness are also like this. O Shariputra, things are expressions of emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, neither waxing nor waning. Thus emptiness is not form, not sensation nor perception, not formation nor consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, nor object of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, no end to ignorance, no old age and death, no cessation of age and death, no suffering nor cause or end to suffering, no path, no wisdom, and no gain, no gain. Thus bodhisattvas live this prajnaparamita with no hindrance of mind, no hindrance, therefore no fear, far beyond all delusion. Nirvana is already here, all past, present, and future Buddhas live this prajnaparamita and realize supreme and complete enlightenment. Therefore know that Naparamita is the sacred mantra, the luminous mantra, the supreme mantra, the incomparable mantra by which all suffering is clear. This is no other than truth. Therefore set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra. Set forth this mantra and proclaim Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha Hanya Shingyo. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now. In reciting the Heart of the Perfection of Great Wisdom Sutra, we dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, Honored One, the historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers, Eihei Dogen Honored One, Soji Keizan Honored One, all successive honored ones up until Zuigaku Renpo honored one, and Godo Wafu honored one, and to all other honored ones throughout history, same yet diverse honored ones, whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled, and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. O Buddhas throughout space and time, O Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha Prajna Paramita.
Zazen? KINHIN.
Now I go. Now I go. Now I turn this way. So we teach. Okay. So when you turn, we always turn to the right. Okay.
We will now have Zazen and a little talk. Can you hear? If you can hear, you'll close the monastery doors. Closing the monastery door. Okay, good. Master Dogen, who brought Soto Zen from China to Japan, was a man of two very different opinions about lay practice. Sometimes, maybe when he was living in Kyoto, the capital of Japan, and had many lay practitioners around him, he would write that lay practice, monastic practice, no difference. Lay people can get it, monks can get it, that anyone can get it. Children, even women, which was controversial in the day, anyone can do this practice in the world, in the monastery, no matter. A little later, Master Dogen got chased out of Kyoto and went to the deep countryside where he lived with a small group of monks in a monastery. And there, sometimes, when his audience, I think, was only monks, I guarantee you there were no lay people in the room when he said this, he would say, monks, only monks can get this. Lay people cannot get this. You're very lucky you're monks. You're very lucky you're living with me in the snow, in this monastery. It's your good karma. Lay people don't have a chance. And I think that Master Dogen was just being a coach who knew his audience. And when you're speaking to monks, you encourage monks. And when you're speaking to lay people, you encourage lay people. In my heart, I believe that the first Dogen, if he had had a chance, if he had been able to make it out in the big city of Kyoto without being forced to leave the city, I think he would have kept that first opinion when he had many lay students. My teacher, Nishijima, certainly thought so and believed in the first Dogen. Nishijima, you know, was a translator of Dogen's writings. And he was also quite a critic of monastic practice. I mean, really a critic, especially as it had become common in Japan and maybe other places in Asia. He said, where did the idea start that you have to run away from the world, close the doors, and cut off your ties with your family and practice only that way? Can we not be practitioners and priests even out in the world? And he emphasized this. He said that Zen in Japan had become kind of a training camp for inheriting temples and performing funerals and wearing fancy costumes and chanting things that nobody understood, that Zazen had been forgotten. He was quite a critic. The funny thing is that Nishijima's teacher, Niwa Zenji, was the abbot of the most sacred of all monasteries in Soto Zen in Japan, Eiheiji. And he was also the Pope of Zen, of Soto Zen, the head of Sotoshu for a while. So for some reason, he was Mr. Institution, incredibly conservative, believed in monastic practice, but he ordained and gave Dharma transmission to this man who was known as being a critic who rejected the whole thing. Why? I spoke to Nishijima about that a couple of times, and he said that that's because Niwa knew there was a problem. And you need the critic to keep the warm blood in Zen practice. Niwa himself believed in the institution, but he also believed in what Nishijima was doing, which was bringing this outside the institution into the world, into where people live, rejecting much of the formality and stuffiness and dust of the monastery in order to bring this practice to where you, I'm talking to you right now, are, into the home, into the workplace. That's why Niwa Zenji certified my teacher, who was a critic of the very institution that Niwa Zenji headed, for that reason. And we must not lose our own belief in that mission that Nishijima Roshi had. We're doing something a bit radical. We are trying to bring ancient teachings and practices out into the world, into the home, into the marriage, into, for those who have kids, having kids, into the workplace, whether it's a factory or an office or a laboratory. That's the place of practice. Little footnote, what did the Buddha say about all this? People think that the Buddha rejected full strength practice for people out in the world. Really, it's not true. And I like to point this out to folks. We don't really know what the Buddha said because most of the words attributed to the Buddha were written by monastics. And of course, they're a little biased. If you're a monastic, you're going to tend to write things that favor being a monastic. But even so, the Buddha is quoted as saying this many times. To be a monastic is the easier path because you are removed from the dust of the world. It is hard. He never said impossible. It is hard to practice in the world. Therefore, he encouraged people to leave the family, to come and to be part of his Sangha as monks. A couple of things about that. He's right. The Buddha was right. Especially in the old days, until the 20th century, in fact. It was very, very difficult for most people to have any kind of serious Buddhist practice, Zen or otherwise, unless you're in a monastery. Why? Well, first off, we don't have what we're doing right now. Communication, transportation. You could not access these teachings unless you were in the same room with the teacher and fellow practitioners, basically living there. If you were living a place where you had to get on a horse and ride for 8 hours, let alone days away, you could not do what you're doing now. Now, you can open a book. They didn't have those so easily back then. You can turn on the internet. Certainly that was not back then. You can receive teachings now more easily in your own home than found in the greatest Buddhist libraries in the Himalayas. Right now, in your own home, you can get a better education, more advice, more guidance right now than monks could get in the past unless they lived in a monastery. That's what we're doing now. So you had to gather in the Ango. The Ango was the 3 months when the monks would gather together in the Buddhist time, because that was the only time they got to see each other. The only time they got to get information, to get the memo, if you would say, and get the teachings. And then they would wander off and hopefully come back the following year for more. But we can speak and access these teachings every day. That's one reason. That's one reason you had to be a monastic in the Buddhist time or in Dogen's time, but not so much today. Also, there is something easier about being a monastic. People think the monastic way is hard. Well, get this. It's hard from our 21st century perspective to give up your iPhone, to give up your computer, to give up air conditioning, to give up your soft mattress, and to live in a monastery, cut off from the world. But in the 12th century, or the 16th century, it was not. It was not so hard to give up your iPhone, or your computer, or your TV, or your air conditioning when no one had them. In fact, the life of the monastic was very balanced, very comfortable for that day. Imagine this, 98% of the population were ignorant, starving peasants struggling. Are those people going to be able to practice Buddhism? You need leisure time. You need food that you're guaranteed. You need a warm place to sleep. The monastic of the past had things that most of the population did not have. It was not, I'm not saying it was a luxurious lifestyle, but it was a comfortable, balanced lifestyle compared to what most of the population has in the past. They don't have what you have right now, which is the time to sit around and listen to some old guy pontificate for 10 minutes. That is a luxury. Because of that, in the past, they would give up their family responsibilities. They would give up their worldly jobs and connections. And that is, in a sense, easier than what you have to deal with your family, your job. Your practice is harder than the monk's practice in some ways. Now, they had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, true, but they went to bed at 10, so it was not so bad. They had to live in the monastery, it was true, without a family, but that is in some ways easier. You have to deal with the wife, the husband, the crazy kids, if you have those. You have to deal with the boss, and you have to make this practice work there. If you can do that, it is the most powerful ango. It is the most powerful practice in ways that even the monastic cannot know if they just flee to the monastery and lock the door. This was Nishijima Roshi's dream, and this is what I believe too. It is vital in our Sangha, even when I train my priests, that we do not lose sight of this. There is nothing to envy in the monk. You are a monk in the world. Do not fall into ceremonies. Do not fall into the fancy clothes. Do not fall into the golden temples. Do not fall into the sound of beautiful Buddhist chanting. Practice where you are, and it is the most important, most powerful practice. Footnote, I'm not criticizing the monk. This is very important. Sometimes people say, oh, out in the world practice is not right. Only monks' practice is right. Well, I'm not saying the opposite. I'm saying to each their own. To those who wish to practice in a monastery, please do. That is your path. It's a beautiful and powerful path. To those of us who practice in the world, don't lose heart in your own practice. It is a powerful, beautiful, rich path of being a true practitioner, a true priest if you're training to be a priest. Both are vital to Buddhism in the 21st century, when we don't have to run to a monastery to get these teachings. We can get them out here in the world. And if you can practice out in the world, in samsara, if you can find nirvana here in samsara, in this crazy, chaotic world, then you have found a treasure. Okay, that's all I want to say. These days we have a tendency in America, in Europe, for monastic Buddhism to be kind of taking over a little bit, some places, and saying that's the only real thing. I want to assure you it's not. It is not. What you do, you're sitting right now, is the real thing. That's it. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows.
All harmful acts, words, and thoughts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable.
All right. Well, I wish you all good luck building your monastery out in the world this week. For those who would like to stick around, we're going to have a little tea and just schmooze. Schmooze is this old Sanskrit word. It means something about like we're going to hang out. And for the rest of you, I wish you a peaceful travels this week. See you guys around. John, could you bring in the tea?
Sure.
That's out there. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you guys stick around a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Make yourself comfortable.
You should just